A very warm welcome to this Sunday's game. I'm your host, Alan Moore, and where I am, it's pretty darn cold, but I'm going to go somewhere further south, further west, where it might be a bit wet, but it is not -8 as it is right now with me. I'm delighted to welcome on, making her debut on the show, and she's going to tell us all how to be better in ourselves, how to be healthy, how to be, well, hopefully wealthy as well. We'll see that as we discuss it. Delighted to welcome on Kayleigh from Anjoy Gaels. Kayleigh, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. I was actually just about to say it's quite cold here, but it's 15 degrees, so it's not that cold if you're comparing it to.
There's a 23-degree difference between the two of us, so you've got the better deal now, in fairness. Listen, just tell us first of all, Anjou is a very, very famous town. I mean, from the Counts of Anjou, it's a very historic area. People know it by different spelling, Angers. So tell us a little bit about Anjou, where you are, and also what took you there.
Well, Anjou, yes, it really is historic. There's a great big castle in the middle that's really famous and really beautiful. It really is impressive. I mean, sometimes you think you've seen one castle, you've seen them all, but this one's pretty special. It's got 12 towers all around, and it has a lot of history with fighting off the English, which is always interesting. The French love to talk about that, especially here. No, it's really nice. It's a really nice. When I first moved here, I moved over from Manchester. I was studying in Manchester, and I found it really small. And I thought, me and Angers will never get on. I'll never be able to stay here. It's too small for me. I need big city life, and that was 15 years ago nearly. So it's obviously not so bad. It's very green. It's actually a really nice sized city. There's a beautiful river that runs through it, and it's in the west of France, but it's quite central to the south, to Paris, to Brittany. It's a really good location, and it's one to visit. And they have something they call la douceur angevine, which means it can mean a lot of things, but it means the softness of Angers and the area, and it's they mainly talk about the weather, so it's never too cold, it's never really too hot. So it's a great place. It's a great place to live. And I came over originally for 1 year, maybe 2 at a push. Again, that was over 15 years ago. I came over to teach law in one of the universities. And on the side, I taught English a little bit, but then actually I decided to come out of law and my legal doctorate that I'd started, and I decided that I want to be an English teacher in France and help the French population improve their English. And then I just got qualified and worked and I've been working as an English teacher in universities ever since.
So basically, it's a kind of a case of the English recolonizing France.
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think my dad doesn't let me call myself English despite my accent. So I'm one of those from come over from England, but they're not allowed to be English. But I'm not Irish either, so I'm one of those between. So I just said that I'll come over to France and annoy them anyways.
Exactly. I mean, it is kind of like that sort of like you're sort of re-educating them. But again, it's terrific, especially that you found yourself as well. You moved from law to teaching. It's a lot of people do it the other way around. So I need respect for that, and it's something that I think if people find their calling and do something they really love. So that's
it, definitely.
And that leads us on to what we're going to discuss, of course, Kayleigh. You are a health and wellbeing officer for Europe. It's a really tough job, and especially the last number of years, because we've had so many issues across Europe, and even just the very, very simple ones like COVID. Coming out of that and the after effects of that, like again, we're both parents, so we see how it's affected kids, even little kids, and our whole relationships with other people. If you could, this is a horrible thing to ask you. If you could you sum up 3 ways for adults to stay, healthy, both physically, mentally? What would you recommend from your experience and from your expertise?
Well, the first thing would be to communicate. I think the communication is key to everything. I mean, this what for me that makes the GAA and GAA abroad so important, because it's people being with people. So I think once you're with other people, life is always a lot easier. And the recent pandemic showed us that we don't actually have to be in the same room as each other to be felt included and supported by other people. So yeah, first of all, communication, to surround yourself with people either physically or at a distance if possible. And then if you don't really feel the need to be surrounded by people, perhaps checking in on others, and you surround them. Okay. And the third one is join a GEA team and stay active and do as much sport as you can. Yeah, definitely. How to stay healthy. You need to keep moving. Basically, if you're sitting at home on your own in a dark room, you're not going to be a very happy, healthy person. But yeah, be with people and move as much as you can, and each to their own ability, each at their own pace, but together is better always.
On that is something that we discussed it with Mary Gavin last week, and I had experience with third level students who had been living, one girl, for example, she's now our club secretary, and she's been living in Moscow, studying in Moscow, came from a relatively big town, like, 250,000 people, I think it is, and moved to Moscow. But for 2.5 years, didn't find herself, was studying, was doing very, very well. She's a genius level. Which said when she came to GAA, she found herself. She actually found people who just opened up. So why, in that case, why would you recommend a GAA? I mean, we can recommend it all day, but for you personally, how did you find it, or did it find you in Anjou?
It found me and I found it, I guess. So it was thanks to a good friend who's called Sinead Riordan, and a good friend called Anna Marie, who many might know.
Yes, yes.
So when I first came over to France, I didn't know Sinead, but Sinead Riordan, I knew that she would be Irish. So I sent her an email. I knew that she was working at the university through another contact, and I just said, listen, you can say no, but I'm looking for a place to stay in Angers. It's quite difficult with finding a place to stay in France unless you're actually in France, and this was over 10 years ago, so all of the online websites didn't actually exist then. So I said, is there any chance I could sleep on your floor for a couple of days just to try and find myself a flat and hope for the best? And she wrote back and she said, oh, with a name like O'Sullivan, how could I refuse? She's from Kerry, and my granddad's name is O'Sullivan, and that's why he lived actually 5 kilometers down the road from her, which turned out to be fine. So first of all, I'd found my place there, and Anna Marie had asked Sinead and I and another girl, Jen from Longford, said, would you like to come and play for Rennes girls team? And at that time, Rennes girls team existed, but didn't have the numbers to make up a full team. So they've come on leaps and bounds since then. But we travelled up actually to Rennes or to other tournaments in Europe to play for Rennes, but we travelled from our own side in Angers, and we just had the best time. We trained 3 or 4 of us in Angers on our own, and then went and played with Rennes, and it was just, as like you said, as the first tournament that I played with GAA in Europe. I thought, wow, this is what I'm supposed to do, and these are my people. And it wasn't that they were Irish, it wasn't that they were from France, it was that they were from all over, and they were all just enjoying life that weekend to play Gaelic football or hurling. And I thought, wow, this is great, because I hadn't actually played that much Gaelic football before. Irish dancing. I was made to do Irish dancing, and I've got the medals to prove it. But yeah, I always wanted to play football, but I don't know, my brother got to play football and hurling, but I didn't get to do it over in Coventry, where I grew up. But I thought, hey, no, I gave it a go, and I'd played a bit of soccer at university and played at school and in other clubs back at home. But I thought, yeah, this is good. I'm happy out doing sport, but it's also the idea that you can go to this organization and it's about the sport. Okay, if there's no matches, there's no GAA, but it's so much more than sport. They've got people coming from abroad, people coming from islands, trying to find a place abroad and trying to feel welcome abroad. You've got people from the own country, the countries who are hosting the tournaments who are trying to find their place as well. They're not neither footballers or basketballers or handballers, but they're looking for an extra sport with something special. And I just thought, wow, this really is it. And once you're in, there's no turning back again. You can't go back to it at the spot. So yeah, that's how it started. And it took us a few years to be brave enough with Sinead to actually set up a club in Angers. And I moved away to Niort and for work when I was training to be a teacher. And I joined the Anjoy Gaels, and I said, right, I've got 1 year in Niort for work, and then when I go back to Angers, I'm setting up the club in Angers. And so we went back and we set it up with Sinead, and that was in 2015. And the lads are doing great now. We're trying to get the girls off the ground. We have a few girls, but we're in tournaments, we're playing, and we're definitely existing. So it's just great. There's no looking back.
It's amazing that again it found you and you found it. I love how you said it sort of was this came together. And I think that's what most people do. They're looking for something. They're even if they're brought along by a friend and a friend who's playing and said, come on and join in. That's in my experience and from speaking with people across Europe, that's what happens. And I think it's really, really unique and special. And it's great as well. And we see in France the growth, the development, the joy, and as you say, you're Irish, you have this, your blood is Irish. There are people from France or from Germany or from Italy or from Zambia, from Russia who have no Irish whatsoever, but they just they become Gaels. And this is why I always say, like, it's like Gaels of all nationalities. We're Gaels. We meet them. That's it. Okay. I should be saying because like you are Gaels actually, not you and your. So like that, just in case people start to wonder, I'm not being biased. I'm not just saying. So on that again, like as a mom, and we see an awful lot of things, and we spoke, of course, with Piers from Van about he's of course our youth officer. We all know that. What advice would you give to parents, especially in relation to kids and getting kids involved? Because it's a really tricky one. Like, you'd have grown up, okay, you were made to do Irish dancing. But again, parents know better sometimes, most of the time, all the time. I would always, like with my kids, go, okay, they're going to have to do sports because that's what was done with me, but I took it and enjoyed it. But what way is a healthy way to introduce kids to Gaelic games, like, and to get them to fall in love with it?
Well, I'd say it's got to be fun. It's got to be fun. If it's fun for a child, it's interesting, and they're not going to worry about, okay, I've had a little bit of chocolate today, so I need to go and run around for an hour. And they don't need it. That's not their issue, and they won't realize if they've been sitting at school all day that they need to get out and get some fresh air, or they won't realize that if they're sitting at home doing homework or in the evening that they need to go and socialize with some friends to have to change things up a bit. They don't realize that, but we can bring that to them. But it's got to be fun for it to be interesting with them, I think. And what kid doesn't want to have fun, and what kid doesn't need to be active and spending time with other children without actually realizing it? We've got to bring it to them, I think. And yeah, it's got to be, I think I have this expression, I was made to do Irish dancing because we had some very severe teachers, and if your 1, 2, 3s and your 7s weren't up to scratch, then you knew about it. But that's not what Gaelic games are about, and definitely not Gaelic games in Europe, I think. And that's what we strive to be anyway. This is a niche sport for most of the countries who develop it, if they're trying to bring in natives from around or non-Irish around. And that's one of the beauties of it, I think. It's so unique in that it's a sport, but culturally there's an intertwining of cultural aspects and sport aspects that already or naturally opens up the kids' minds to something different. They could be playing with half Irish or half French kids who are playing and their parents are Irish maybe, or they have some connection to Ireland, or they could be playing with other children from ex-Erasmus people who are different nationalities, or they could be playing alongside other kids from their own nationality. But just that in itself is not something you find in every other sport. You know, it's not the cliche clubs that you have to know the top players that were there before. There were the daddies or the mummies that were playing before, and if you're their child, then you automatically do that sport. That's completely left to the side. I think there's no comme je vois, and everyone's got their place. You know, the GAA have this slogan, a place where we all belong, and sometimes it can sound a bit cheesy, but there's actually no other slogan that can fit. It's so right. It's on the spot. You know, we all do belong, and there's this place, whether you're out running on the field or if you're just selling cakes for a match on the side of the pitch. You know, everyone does have their place, and it's a place where, like I said before, once you're in, you want to stay. And I think that's important to show that side of things, to that side of the existence of the clubs and the communities around the clubs. But on the sports side of things, to keep the kids healthy, it needs to be fun, and they need to have a ball. You know, once they've got a ball, then that's the first step. You know,
Yeah, I saw me too. I was saying to the guys yesterday and today, and there was a football just like buried under snow, and one of them immediately took and started kicking in front of him, and then grabbed it and lay down on it. So I said, okay, he'll either be a footballer or a rugby player. And the other one looked at it, and he had a stick. I started hitting him with a stick. It's like, right, hurler, grand, fine. You know, I'm sorted. They'll play well.
You know, you don't need all these fancy toys. You need a ball or a stick, a box maybe that they come in, and that's it. It's everything else around it that makes it special for the kids, and that's all you need to start them off.
Exactly, same thing. Look, on that, I'll say thank you very much, Kayleigh, because I know you're busy trying to finish baking cake, so I'll speak with you in just a moment. But thank you so much. You keep up the brilliant work. And again, if anyone does have any questions related to health and well-being, you can contact Kayleigh. I think it's healthandwellbeing.europe@gaa.ie, correct?
It's HWC. HWC.
So
health, well-being. Yeah, HWC, and then at the start, and then the rest.
HWC.europe@gaa.ie.
That's it. Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. We'll put it into the link as well. We send it. Okay, thank you very much, and have a superb evening. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, so I'll just let Katie go for a moment. I'll come back to her in just a moment. So I'll just say thank you all for joining us today. And again, if you have any questions, have a look at the email address. It's hwc.europe@gaa.ie. And of course, you can always reach out and speak to anyone of us as well, officers of the board. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.